When did someone show their true self in 30 seconds? When my hair started falling out in clumps last March, I spent hours crying in my bathroom. The chemotherapy was working. My oncologist said the tumors were shrinking, but watching my hair circle the drain felt like losing pieces of myself. By May, I had bald patches the size of quarters scattered across my scalp, so I made the hardest decision of my life and cut it all off. Rachel was the first person I called after leaving the salon. We'd been best friends since second grade when she split her sandwich with me because I forgot my lunch money. 20 years later, she was still the person I called first. When she got engaged in December, she FaceTimed me from the restaurant bathroom, mascara streaming down her face. You have to be my maid of honor. I literally can't imagine anyone else standing next to me. We've been planning our wedding since we were 12, remember? I did remember. We used to steal her mom's old bridal magazines and cut out pictures for our wedding books. We promised we'd be each other's maid of honor back when we barely knew what that meant. Of course I'll be your maid of honor, I said. Try and stop me. I threw myself into wedding planning like it was my second job. 3 different dresses for her 3-day wedding extravaganza, ceremony, rehearsal, and reception. I paid $1,800 total with alterations and the specific shoes she wanted. I coordinated 8 bridesmaids who'd never met each other. When the original bachelorette party venue canceled, I found a replacement and handled all the rebooking. Every Tuesday we went to the gym together because she wanted toned arms for her strapless dress. I created her entire workout routine. She'd post photos of us with captions like, "Can't do life without my maid of honor," in 20 years and counting with this one. Her mom would joke that I was basically her second daughter. Even her fiance said he knew I came with the package. Those 5 months felt like we were kids again, staying up too late planning something magical. But when I told Rachel about my hair 2 weeks before the wedding, she went quiet. "Oh," she said, "when did you decide this?" I explained about the chemo, the patches, how I'd been hiding it under hoodies at our last few meetings. She made sympathetic noises, but her eyes kept drifting to my head. "We'll figure it out," she said, but she didn't even ask if I was okay. The next week she came over to my apartment and we watched reality TV and ate Chinese food like normal. But as she was leaving, she paused at my door. "I'm worried about your hair," she said. "All the other girls have long hair for the styles I picked. I promised her I'd make it work, that I'd wear a beautiful headpiece." She smiled tightly and left. The text came the next night. I read it 17 times. "I need to be clear about my boundaries. When I asked you to be maid of honor, I set specific expectations. James and I have invested thousands in photography and videography, and your haircut without discussing it with me first shows you can't commit to my vision. You need to step down from the wedding party immediately." 3 days before her wedding, after I'd coordinated her entire bridal shower, after I'd spent dozens of hours addressing invitations because she liked my handwriting better, after I'd held her while she cried about venue problems and family drama, I sent her and James an invoice for $1,800, and she never responded. I still went to the wedding as a guest, sat in the back row, and watched some work friend she'd known for 6 months stand where I should have been. She read the maid of honor speech from notes I'd shared with the bridesmaids group chat, word for word, and Rachel smiled and cried like she'd spent her whole life growing up with this stranger. Rachel posted hundreds of photos with captions about her ride or die crew, and blessed to have the best maid of honor. She never mentioned that 3 days earlier, I existed. Our mutual friends started texting me. "What happened?" She said, "You chose to step down?" But I just said we had different priorities. I hadn't spoken to Rachel since that day after blocking her number and unfriending her on everything. Then 2 years of silence ended when my phone rang from an unknown number, and I almost didn't answer. "It's Megan," the voice said. Rachel's younger sister, who I'd known since she was in diapers. She sounded different, more serious than I remembered. "I'm getting married in October." The familiar ache returned. "That's wonderful, Megan." She took a deep breath before continuing. "I want you as my maid of honor." The words tumbled out fast, like she'd been practicing. Rachel assumed it would be her, but I was there. "I watched her abandon you during chemo over a haircut. You've been more of a sister to me than—" I interrupted. "Megan, she's your actual sister. And you were hers for 20 years, Megan replied firmly. When I told Rachel no, she screamed about family loyalty, and I reminded her that she taught me everything about loyalty when she replaced you 3 days before her wedding. The morning of Megan's wedding, Rachel took her assigned seat and watched me stand where she'd assumed she'd be. At the reception, I stood for my speech and caught Rachel's eye. "I wrote this speech 2 years ago," I said into the microphone, "but apparently it's already been delivered, so I had to write a new one." People who'd been at Rachel's wedding shifted uncomfortably. Rachel went white as I talked about chosen family, about sisters who show up when your hair falls out, about 20 years of friendship that prepared me to recognize the real thing. Rachel left during the standing ovation, her face crumpling. 20 years of friendship, and she'd only needed 3 days to teach her sister exactly who not to become.